Mo Salah, of course, it's very easy to talk about this player today. It was summer 2017. Full credit to Jurgen, and it kind of shows what sort of a leader he is, that we were always backroom staff and never said anything. He was front of house, and had he wanted to take full credit for Mo's signing, we wouldn't have said anything. We'd just be happy that the player succeeded. But the sort of person Jurgen is, he did give credit where he didn't have to. And so his preference was Julian Brandt, who was an attacking midfielder at Leverkusen. Hindsight bias is a terrible thing. So people have said to me, you compare Brandt and Mo today. There's miles between the two. But at the time, they were among the best young forwards in Europe. Not so much between them. Mo just fit our style much better. We did rate him higher, and he played in the right role, so that sort of wide forward role. Brandt could play there. He's more of an attacking midfielder. Now, Jürgen, being German, knew that market really well, had his own network in Germany, giving really positive reports about Brandt. And we kind of agreed. It was like, yeah, he's a great player, but if you look at the price point, it's higher. The performance is lower, and the ceiling for Mo was also higher.
So what in the data showed you the ceiling for Mo was higher?
Mo was just on a trajectory that said, okay, it was a good case scenario. He could be one of the best players in the world. So I think we rated him above Premier League average at the age of 24 when he was playing in Italy. And you just sort of list who are the under 24 wide forwards who are above average and not already playing for a Champions League club. And it was Mo. That was it. Yeah. It's quite unusual for that to happen. And then the price point was low for two reasons. Roma were in financial distress, so that market knowledge was really important. And that's that's my colleagues at the club. That's our analysis didn't say Roma are in financial distress. And the other factor was he failed at Chelsea.
Would you take us into the room where the conversation was had about Mo Salah, the data you presented, and the reaction particularly from Jurgen, who was, until that point, still thinking that Brandt is the guy?
The data never made it into the presentation because that's not Jurgen's style of thinking or style of learning. So he's aware of what we do, and the fact that data analysis is a big contribution to which names were on the shortlist. So typically what would happen is a 20 or a 30 minute video reel of the players on the shortlist. But the data would have informed the sort of clips that were shown, with strengths and weaknesses and so on. But those clips would come with a voiceover to say, Jürgen, you don't know this player in detail, so let me explain to you who this player is and why we think he's a good
And who would do that voiceover?
That would be Michael Edwards, who is the sporting director and my boss. And so, over the clips, it was like, this is the role he plays for Roma. He'd be a slightly different role for Liverpool, but you can see how the things he does at Roma would translate very easily to Liverpool. This is his history. This is who he is as a player. Jürgen's someone who loves a story of adversity. So the fact that Mo had failed, that was a positive to Jürgen when it would be a negative to lots of managers. And it's like, he's gone to do this in Italy after a terrible experience at Chelsea. So you can paint that failure in a positive way to say, he's got some grittiness, some determination to succeed. And the same would happen for Brandt. And we were positive on Brandt. It would be a good signing, just not the ideal signing. And Jürgen had the final decision. So Jürgen saw players in a similar way to data, so it was rare we'd have big disagreements on who's a good player or not, and a similar way to scouting. So usually only good things could come from that conversation. If we'd have signed Brandt, I think it would have been a good signing for Liverpool, just not a great signing, but we wouldn't have been sort of incredibly, we'd have been unhappy at missing out on Mo, but it was like, this is not a mistake for the club, this is a good signing for the club. And really, it's down to Jürgen. Like, we sort of paint an honest picture of these players. This one was a case where Mo was clearly the number one, and this is our honest picture that he's number one. It also helped it was the second transfer window, because that first transfer window had been successful, signed Mane, Wijnaldum, There was one other, Matip, of course, that came to the club. So having been through that process once, Jürgen trusted what he was seeing, that it wasn't, selected highlights to try and put a false view. We weren't putting a false negative view on Brandt. We weren't putting a false positive view on Mo. So that helped. He already had some trust and said, again, the leadership to say, you know what, I was wrong. You've convinced me, let's do it.
There was a point a little while ago where I looked at all the supplements in my kitchen cupboard, and my wife laughs about this even now, and she's like, what has happened here? And honestly, I didn't realise that all of the supplements that I was taking had got so complicated. But I think it's because I was trying to be a dad, trying to be a partner to Harriet, trying to run a couple of businesses, trying to find time to host this podcast. And I suppose really what I needed was less things in my life and just a few things that actually work. And I think there's a myth that I'd like to debunk at this point, right? It's that high performance doesn't mean trying to chase everything. It doesn't mean finding every hack. It doesn't mean squeezing more into every single day. Sometimes the best performers, and they've told us this when they've been in this studio, they just prioritize simplicity. They only master the fundamentals. And to be honest, I think I've learned this the hard way through trial and error. And I think I now realize that nothing is more fundamental than fueling your body with the right nutrition. And I believe this helps. Vitals by Heights is nutrition without the noise. Just 2 capsules, 6 seconds, 0 effort. And in here, all the essential nutrients, the vitamins, the minerals, the healthy fats that are designed to power energy, focus, recovery, and sleep. So we're talking about no mixing, no nonsense, just everything you need in the right doses. And I think if something takes longer than about 10 seconds, I'm out. Luckily, this takes about 6, so you're fine. So why don't you strip your health routine back and just focus on what matters? Head to heights.com/Jake or enter code HP20 at checkout for 20% off your first month. I promise you, I believe this stuff really works.
So when we signed Mo, I remember saying to my boss, I can't believe that, why aren't Arsenal and Chelsea, well, obviously not Chelsea, why aren't Arsenal and Man United in for him? And I don't know if it's true or not, but his idea was Mo had been tarred with this brush of failure at Chelsea. If you look at it, he was behind Eden Hazard in the pecking order. Of course, you're not going to start as a 21-year-old if Hazard's first choice. Mourinho was the manager. Mourinho likes older, experienced players. Those two things kind of explained why he didn't play at Chelsea.
But those sort of broad brush dismissals of players must be common within football. So I'm interested in, how do you push somebody to dig that bit deeper and think about some of those perspectives you've just offered?
Yeah, it's a challenge, and quite often people don't dig deeper. If they did, it would have been more difficult for us to sign Mo. And I think that's where data helps, is it gives you an objective history to compare about. It's like, okay, he's failed at Chelsea, but this is the list of players that had similar performances to him at a similar age and a similar amount of experience. They're all hits, or they're 90% hits. So it gives you something to weigh that Chelsea failure against. And also, just even digging into the Chelsea failure is something I don't know, I think other people didn't do.
Yeah.
I think not just in football, but in life, doing something different sets you up to fail. And so the way to not fail and the way to sort of get your next job in football is kind of to do the same thing as everyone else is doing.
Nobody gets sacked for employing IBM. Yeah.
And signing Mo was something you could get sacked for if it didn't work out. Like we knew in Liverpool with the owners we had and with Jurgen as the leader that, it gives you that safety to make those braver decisions. But a lot of clubs, I sort of completely understand why you'd be reticent to sign Mo.
And did Jurgen ever ask the question about Mo's struggles at Chelsea?
No, that was the great thing about him not being a Premier League manager. He didn't have this fixation of they failed in the Premier League, or you have to have proven it in the Premier League before you can come to my club. A lot of our signings didn't have Premier League experience before they came to the club. And Premier League experience reduces the risk, increases the chance of success. There's much less variance in the performance, but that comes at price. And so our question was, is that extra price worth paying? 40% premium, same player, Premier League experience or no Premier League experience?